In this video, I will go over my actual fixed operating costs of living in Italy over the past 5 years, as well as other costs you would have living here. While cost of living is obviously based on lifestyle, I try to maintain my expenses at an even level, taking into account cost of living increases, world events, etc. I am a prudent spender, and I would say I live a fairly modest lifestyle, not extremely modest and not extravagant. So I believe my costs are a good baseline for what you can expect and how you can estimate and plan a budget for your own costs based on your own particular lifestyle. And for comparison, I list my costs of living in Long Beach, California. Reducing the ever-growing annual financial outlay I needed in California was one of the main drivers for my move to Italy. I wanted to eliminate the worry of always having to make more money every year to keep the same lifestyle. I wanted to secure a future where having a fixed income after retirement in my golden years would be enough to keep me living a happy and healthy and secure lifestyle. Before I made my move, I was fortunate in that I was able to liquidate assets in the US and use the money to buy outright both my house and my car in Italy. So here in Italy, I don't have debt, no mortgage, no car payment. I have annual fixed operating expenses and discretionary living expenses. There are 3 important factors regarding my situation and my lifestyle that had a major impact on how I was able to move and how much it cost me to live in Italy. 1. I was able to liquidate capital assets in the US to fund the outright purchase of a house and car in Italy. 2. I was willing to live in a small city, a town or village, or in the countryside and in a location not heavily frequented by tourists. Housing prices and living expenses are higher in large cities like Rome, Milan, Venice, or super popular tourist destinations like the Amalfi Coast. 3. I was able to move to Italy on an elective residence visa. I have steady, autonomous income, and I do not need to have a job to live here in Italy. More on how to move to Italy under the elective residence visa in my uber helpful YouTube videos, How to Move to Italy and the Italian Long-Term Visa. Okay, let's get to the specifics. My fixed annual costs of living. Here is a chart of my actual living expenses in Long Beach, California in 2017 versus my 5-year average through 2023 in the Monferrato, Italy. We'll get into a more detailed breakdown in a few minutes, but here I show the stark difference between living in California and living in the Monferrato, Italy. Again, one of the main drivers for my move here. By moving to Italy, I was able to reduce my monthly operating expenses from more than $4,800 per month in 2017 to the US dollar equivalent of less than $1,000 per month, averaged over the past 5 years. That's an 80% reduction in monthly operating expenses. The main difference being the first line of home ownership costs: rent or mortgage, property taxes, homeowners insurance. As I mentioned before, I liquidated assets in the US in order to buy my house and car outright in Italy for under $100,000 US. And one might say you can't really compare that line because you don't have rent or mortgage payments in Italy. But for me, the comparison still holds because I would never have been able to buy a house and car outright in the US for under $100,000, especially in California or most other states. Living in the US at 55 years of age, I would have had a mortgage or rent for the rest of my life. Even if you back out the rent-mortgage line, the decrease in annual average monthly expenses is 55%. In Italy, I live a simpler lifestyle. I have pared down on so many things that now seem superfluous, and the decrease in monthly financial layouts makes me shout, why didn't I do this years ago? This doesn't mean that I live a dull or boring existence. In fact, I feel that my life is fuller here than it's ever been. It's a happier, less stressful existence that comes at a fraction of the cost. Here is a chart of my average monthly operating expenses over the past 5 years, in euros under the blue header and in US dollar equivalent under the green header. This chart of average basic monthly living expenses excludes discretionary spending, but includes fixed costs such as home ownership expenses, car expenses, phone, internet, utilities, heating, healthcare, and groceries. I'll talk about the costs of discretionary spending a bit later in the video. As you can see, my monthly average operating expenses in Italy over the past 5 years have ranged from euros 776 to 948 per month, equivalent to approximately 1,000 US dollars. That compares to my monthly average operating expenses of more than 4,800 US dollars in California in the year before I moved. Let's discuss each section in more detail, starting from line 1, home expenses. From here on in, my charts will list the cost in euros, easily converted into your home currency. While my house itself is not modest, as many farmhouses here are large, multi-family dwellings, I bought it with a friend and we paid a modest low price of 170,000 euros. So my half was 85,000 euros. The house has several outbuildings and nearly 10 acres of land. I have nearly 3,000 square feet of living space, and the expenses discussed and shown in this video are solely my share of expenses. I mention these sizes so that you can budget according to your house and land size. As mentioned previously, I bought the house in cash and do not have a mortgage. If you are not buying a house outright, for your own cost budgeting, the average cost of housing in Italy in 2023, whether rent or mortgage, is reported at 988 euros per month. I find this a bit high as Italian long-term interest rates in 2024 are low, ranging from 3.68 to 4.09, and many properties in my area, and those areas outside of the largest cities, coastal areas, and tourist areas, rent from 350 to 700 per month. So if you're budgeting for monthly mortgage or rent payments outside of those areas, I would budget 500 to 700 euros per month. More on housing prices a bit later in the video. I am a resident of Italy, which means I pay no annual property taxes on my house because it is my primary residence. Owning or renting a house does not make you a resident of Italy. Residency in Italy is gained through several different processes, many of which are covered in our uber helpful YouTube videos, Moving to Italy and the Italian Long-Term Visa. Non-residents who own houses here do pay annual property taxes on their house or houses, equal to approximately 1% of the catasto value of the house, not the sale price. The catasto value is determined by the municipality and something I won't cover in this video. For budgeting purposes, you can use the sale price to estimate your annual property taxes as a non-resident. Please note that for properties that are categorized as luxury properties, there is no annual property tax exemption, and the annual taxes are much higher, at approximately 20%. Listings and agents will say if a property is categorized as a luxury property. Residents and non-residents alike pay property taxes on land. Most land is taxed annually at a low rate unless it is a high-value crop like vineyards or nut trees. I pay less than 110 euros per year on 2.5 hectares of land. Most of the land is farmed by a local farmer who pays me a stipend of about 150 euros per year, just enough to cover my taxes on the land. I have full coverage homeowners insurance, including buildings, liability, and contents on my 3,000 square feet of property, for which I pay about 350 euros per year. I have no special riders. Here in Piedmont, we do not need any special riders for catastrophic events of weather or earthquakes. Car expenses. Gas is one thing that is more expensive here in Italy. In fact, it is more than double what it costs in the US. In my expense chart, I list an even 600 euros per year for gas. The higher the gas prices, the more I ride my scooter and my bike. Currently, in 2024 in Italy, gas is about 1.75 euros per liter, up from 1.5 euros in 2018. As there are nearly 4 liters to a gallon, that is the equivalent of more than $7 per gallon. Car repairs. I have an older model car, a 2012 Peugeot, so in lieu of a car payment, I have repair costs. Car registration and inspection. You need to register your car every year, and the amount is based on the year, model, and in large part, the energy efficiency. The more energy efficient, the lower your registration fee. My annual registration fee of approximately 180 euros is quite low because of my older model car. Not the most prestigious car to be seen in, but I don't want debt or a car payment. In addition to annual registration, you need to get your car inspected every 2 years, and inspections are generally about 65 euros. But you may need to get a thing or two fixed in order to pass. Inspection costs have remained stable in Italy since I moved here in 2018, as have many cost of living expenses. Car insurance. My insurance started out higher in 2019, as I had both liability and vehicle damage coverage. In 2022, the cost dropped as my car was too old to insure it for vehicle damage. Cell phone. Yes, my cell phone bill is less than 22 euros per month, the equivalent of 25 US dollars per month, compared to the whopping 120 US dollars per month I paid in the US. Here, I have more gigs of data. I use cellular constantly for navigation and as a hotspot while on the go, and I have never run out of data. Texting is additional here, but few people in Italy and in much of the world send text messages. Nearly everyone has WhatsApp, so messages and phone calls are free to anyone who also has the app. To make international phone calls to someone or a business without WhatsApp, Skype has a phone-to-phone service to make calls for just pennies per minute. Utilities. Italians often complain about high utility bills, but they cost less here than in the US. Living on the coast of California in the US, I never used air conditioning or heating, and I still paid more in utility bills. Here in northern Italy, in my stone house, I have never needed air conditioning, with stone walls about 1.5 feet thick and a huge underground cantina where they made and stored wine. Our cantina is an airplane hangar-sized brick and stone vault that's a constant 62 degrees. It keeps the floor above nice and cool in the summer. But in the winter, those factors combine to keep the house a little bit colder. Long-timers say that 15 years ago, it used to snow as much and be as cold here in the Monferrato as in Michigan. But in the 6 winters I've lived here, it has rarely snowed and temperatures rarely fall below freezing. Winter temperatures in the Monferrato generally range from 30 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit or 0 to 10 Celsius, while summer temperatures generally range from 70 to 95 degrees Fahrenheit. This utility chart includes electricity, water, trash, internet, and a small 10-kilogram gas bombolo that I use for cooking. For budgeting purposes, I have separated out heat expenses as they are so variable. Most houses get water from municipality lines. Not many people are drinking from wells. Sewage lines often come from the municipality, although many houses outside of villages have a septic-type system. Electricity and internet run to most homes, unless you are off-grid in the Alps or backcountry. In the 5 full years that I've lived here, the biggest fluctuation in utilities was an increase in electricity costs due to confluent world events, the COVID pandemic in 2021 and the Russian invasion of the Ukraine in 2022. At the start of 2022, household electricity and gas prices rose significantly, sometimes 3 to 5 times pre-2022 prices. They have come down somewhat since, but are still not at pre-2022 levels. An interesting thing to mention here is that, in most ways, Italy is a very locally driven economy. Most fruits, vegetables, and even meats in Piedmont are locally sourced, and grocery prices did not go up significantly during the COVID pandemic. As you can see, my non-energy related costs are low and stable. High-speed fiber optic internet is 20 euros per month. Trash is about 6 euros per month. Water about 20 to 30 euros per month. Heating. I could do an entire video on heating your house in Italy. Many houses here are heated with radiant heat, radiators placed throughout the house that heat with hot water fueled by a gas-powered caldaia. A caldaia is what other countries might refer to as a boiler, fueled usually by gas. It heats water on demand and sends it through the pipes to the radiators and often also to the kitchen and bathroom. Other types of heating sources here include a pompa di calore, which is a heat pump similar to a hot water on demand system as the caldaia, but fueled by electricity, wood, or pellets. There are pellet stoves and enclosed log burning stoves and open fireplaces. Before the 1970s, many houses, particularly those outside of the cities, had only open fireplace heating, and it was during that decade that heating systems were installed across the country. The cost of gas, methane, LPG, propane, etc., for gas-fueled heating systems can be volatile, and as mentioned, the price of gas for home heating tripled or more here in Italy in 2022. Naturally, the cost of other big energy company fuels went up in unison, including electricity and pellets, which increased from 5 euros per bag to more than 13 euros per bag in 2022. Perhaps the pellet company's price gouging backfired a bit, as bags are now down to just over 4 euros after sales plummeted when everyone scrambled to find alternative methods. Wood, which is often locally sourced by independent farmers, stayed constant at approximately 16 to 17 euros per quintale. Many of Italy's older, larger farmhouses are very energy inefficient, and heating is a major cost factor. And all of Italy is in a temperate zone. experiencing seasons including winter. While it is warmer on average the further south you go, it can be as cold or colder on any given day in February in Palermo, Sicily, as it is in the Monferrato in northern Italy. My heating costs doubled in 2022 due to the rise of the cost of pellets and due to the fact that I resigned to keep my house warmer than in the first few years that I lived here. Overall, and even with the volatile increases, my heating costs are probably relatively very low compared to other houses of similar size, age, and poor energy efficiency due to several factors. You can base your cost estimates on your lifestyle, also keeping in mind the type, size, and age of house you live in. I wear several layers of clothes during the colder months, including at least 1 to 2 layers of wool. I do not have gas or electric fueled heat. I have 2 enclosed cast iron wood-burning stoves and 1 pellet stove. I keep at least 1 source on low at all times during the winter, and my living areas stay very comfortable all winter long. I put heavy curtains over my windows and doors. I do not heat every room, only the zones where I spend most of my time. I do not like heat in my bedroom, and I am too frugal to heat my bathroom. Healthcare. Healthcare as part of the National Healthcare System, also known as the SSN, is free to residents of Italy. See our uber informational YouTube videos, The Italian Long-Term Visa and Moving to Italy, on how to become a resident of Italy. For people who live here and are residents under the elective residence visa, and this is for many of you watching and considering a move to Italy, the annual cost of registration in the SSN is now a minimum of $2,000 per year and a maximum of about €2,400 per year. With the National Healthcare System, you are assigned a local doctor, kind of like an administrator who authorizes appointments with the type of doctor you need, usually at a local clinic or hospital. It is kind of like an HMO in the US or socialized medicine elsewhere. You can change the doctor who is assigned as your administrator depending on availability. The more rural you are, the fewer choices you have. If you are in the National Healthcare System, almost all doctor visits and prescriptions are free. Some specialized tests have a nominal fee. I paid only €12 to get a very specialized hearing test in Turin. And emergency hospital care is free. Yes, free. I fell and knocked myself unconscious, was rushed to the hospital in an ambulance, had a CAT scan, an MRI, and stayed overnight with IV fluids. Luckily, I was fine the next day, and when discharged, I walked in dread to the administrator station and asked what I owed, and they said nothing. I owed $0 money. If you want to go to a private doctor, whether you are or aren't in the national system, expect to pay between €40 to €100 per visit for in-office consultations and basic treatments. Prescriptions not prescribed by your doctor through the SSN can cost any amount. Groceries and food. Coffee, great coffee, is rarely more than €110 to €120 a cup at any cafe or bar, and about €5 a pound at any grocery store. Wine, excellent wine, is €15 a bottle, and you can get good wine at €5 a bottle. Piedmont is one of the oldest and largest wine-producing regions in Italy, and Italy is the largest wine-producing country in the world, producing almost 50% more wine annually than France. Italy is the 4th largest cheese producer, with a large variety of artisanal and locally made cheeses, some of them available only 1 month per year from cows, goats, and sheep who spend their spring and summer months grazing specific grasses in specific mountain pastures. And the best part about the food is it's almost all locally grown, within 20 km, non-GMO, without a lot of the harmful chemicals allowed elsewhere, but banned in the EU. I spend about €30 each week at the grocery store, and another €40 each week at the farmer's market, where free-range chicken eggs from the farmer's own chickens cost less than €2 per dozen. In Italy, the regions really do run as local economies, and this helps to keep prices stable, each with their different traditions and specialties. The clothes are made in Italy, the dry goods are made in Italy, the hardware is made in Italy. This is one of my favorite aspects about living in Italy. Discretionary spending. Eating out. Eating out is very affordable, especially compared to the United States and some other European countries. You can get a working man's lunch in almost any village or town for €12, which includes a starter, often a local specialty or pasta, a main meat or vegetarian course, dessert, and wine. In the evening, before or in place of dinner, you can enjoy aperitivo time, order a €4 to €6 beer, wine, or spritz, and get a generous plate of meats, cheeses, and finger snacks for free. A pizza margherita is €6, a pizza with toppings, €8. Bowls of piping hot handmade pastas start at €8. A remarkable, memorable 9-course meal with wine at my favorite restaurant is €45. Shopping. My only long-term comparison is with the United States, and I can say that across the board, again, excluding gasoline and some energy costs, nearly Nearly everything that you buy in Italy is less expensive and often made in Italy. This includes clothing, home goods, furniture, appliances, hardwares. And cars. Italian, German, French, Spanish cars, all EU manufacturers' models, are relatively affordable here, both new and used. I bought a very reliable, used but good condition 2012 economy model Peugeot with less than 40,000 miles for €3,500. Upim is one of my favorite clothing stores for basic, everyday wear, with many high-quality items made in Italy of 100% cotton. I have bought several pairs of jeans there, never spending more than €25. Many clothing and shoe stores sell only Italian-made products at very affordable prices. Travel. While gas for cars is more expensive than in the US, the cost of gas here is on par with many other European countries. Public transportation costs in Italy are very low. I can take the train from Asti to Bologna, a 4-hour trip for about €25 round trip. The fast train, which is about 2.5 hours, is about €50 round trip. There is an abundance of train routes from north to south, east to west, with very few areas unserved. Here is a shocking map of train lines in Europe compared to train lines in the US. You can find flights within Europe, for example Milan or Rome, to Berlin, Paris, London, for as low as €100 round trip. The autostradas and some freeways have tolls, but they aren't prohibitive, unless I'm sure you have to commute every day. And they are often fast-moving, free of traffic jams, and in very good condition. Entertainment. Movie tickets near me are less than €7, except on Friday and Saturday nights, when they are around €9. Tickets to the opera at La Scala in Milan start at €20. Many museums are free on the first Sunday of the month and on other special days. Cable TV starts at €19 per month, movie channels €10 per month. House prices. Buying. Here are 2 housing trend charts for 2024 from idealista.it, one of the largest real estate listing websites in Italy. Please note, these charts include prices in the large cities, coastal areas, and tourist areas. Outside of those areas, housing prices are lower and stagnant across much of Italy, and I would estimate the average price per square meter outside of those areas is €700 to €1,200 per square meter, which is equivalent to $68 to $115 per square foot. Here's a graph, according to idealista.it, of the average long-term mortgage rates by region for 2023. Average rates in 2023 range from 3.99% to 4.23%. There has been a slight decrease in interest rates in 2024. Rental housing prices. According to internations.org, the average rent price in Italy is €800 a month. However, this is just the average. In the countryside and smaller villages, you will find monthly rental prices starting at €300, while in the large cities or tourist areas, monthly prices can be €1,000 or more. Taxes. Personal income taxes. As always, please consult a tax professional for guidance on tax requirements pertaining to your particular situation. We are not tax professionals. The following is general information only. If you own or rent a house here, but you are not a resident of Italy, you do not pay personal income taxes to Italy. Owning or renting a house does not make you a resident of Italy. Residency in Italy is gained through several different processes, many of which are covered in our uber helpful YouTube videos, Moving to Italy and the Italian long-term visa. One exception for non-residents is short-term rental income such as Airbnb, Booking.com, etc. As of this date, I know that Airbnb is required to withhold a flat 21% of payout amounts from Airbnb owners and submit this money to the Italian tax agency on the owner's behalf. For residents of Italy, please note, as soon as you become a resident of Italy for longer than 6 months, your primary tax domicile is then Italy. As a resident of Italy, your tax domicile is not the country where you have citizenship or where you may have other properties. Having your primary tax domicile as Italy generally means you report and pay taxes to Italy first. Then you may also have an obligation to report and pay taxes to your country of citizenship. For example, for U.S. citizens who are residents of Italy, U.S. and Italy have a double taxation treaty whereby you do not have to pay full tax requirements in both countries. The tax you pay to your country of residence is used to offset the tax due in your country of citizenship. For example, as a resident of Italy, I first report and pay my taxes in and to Italy. I pay Italian taxes on my worldwide income. There are also taxes due on some capital assets such as property, but I leave that to the professionals to explain. Then, as a U.S. citizen, I am also required to file taxes in the U.S., but the amount of taxes that I pay in Italy is credited toward the amount of tax that I owe in the U.S. And because tax rates are generally higher in Italy, certainly for my tax bracket, I do not then owe taxes in the U.S. The amount of taxes I pay in Italy each year offsets the amount of taxes I owe through my U.S. filing, but I do still have to file in the U.S. Yes, personal income tax rates are generally higher in Italy, but don't fixate on that, because the increased taxes are almost always offset significantly when you consider 1. The all-around lower cost of living, 2. Lower housing costs via the absence of annual property taxes on your primary home, lower mortgage interest rates, lower rental costs. And 3, very low, if any, health coverage costs for residents. Below is an example how higher tax rates can be offset by the lower costs of living in Italy. Many people will save just taking into consideration the 2 factors of health care and property taxes alone, before adding in the lower costs of food, shelter, and other expenses that I outlined in this video. These are very basic examples, not taking into account exchange rates, personal situations, etc. The chart compares Italy versus the US, but you can plug in your costs or rates from your own country. Let's say that your taxable worldwide income is $49,000. At Italy's tax rate of 35% at that income bracket, your tax would be just over $17,000. On $49,000 at the US tax rate, your tax would be under $11,000. This is a difference of $6,000 more in taxes you would pay in Italy. But in Italy, based on average annual costs in the US and Italy, you would have a savings of $5,000 on healthcare and a savings of $2,300 on property taxes. So the savings from just healthcare and property taxes alone could more than offset the higher tax rate in Italy. If you rent instead of owning a house, the annual savings, based on average rental rates, could be significant. And if you have a mortgage, savings over a 30-year period could also be significant. We hope you learned a lot from us about the cost of living in Italy. We strive to be the information channel, getting right to the point and the heart of the matter with real-life experience and examples. A thumbs up is appreciated, and comments help us tremendously to get our name and our message out there and to keep it out there. We are House Finders Northern Italy. We help foreigners to find houses in Piedmont and Liguria regions, and we help foreigners through the often arduous buying process in all regions of Italy. Visit us at our website, housefindersnorthernitaly.com, and at our YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram channels. Thanks for watching.